In this video, we are going to be doing an overview of a mech which is extraordinarily significant in the history of Battletech. Though it perhaps is not as menacing as the Marauder, or is as famous as its iconic peers the Atlas, Warhammer, and a few others, it is in fact the fighting vehicle that tore down the walls of Amaris' palace. This is the Battlemech of arguably the most famous figure in the entire history of Battletech, namely one Alexander Kerensky, and he would use it as an inspiration for the larger Atlas later on. This monstrosity of a mech has its origins back in the 25th century and has never looked back, now making it almost 700 years old, in-universe. With no further delay, let us begin to divulge the secrets of the chariot of Kerensky himself. General Mechanics, Orion. A heavy mech weighing in at 75 tons, the Orion represents the maximum weight of what is described as a heavy mech, and most definitely acts like it, often taking on the functional appearance of an assault mech seemingly as often as it does a heavy mech. Interestingly, this venerable and vaunted series of mechs did have a bit of trouble in its development history, with several proposals for its final design being rejected, and while it would originally be produced in a more primitive format in 2456, in its first acceptable form, one which the Terrans believed filled out the role they wanted in the armed forces, the Orion as we know it today first appeared in 2525. Built to outcompete the great houses outside of the Terran Hegemony, which is only natural given that the Terrans were at the heart of the Star League, this mech would be incredibly important to the Star League defense forces and could take up a multitude of roles with its varied weapon systems and extremely heavy armor. Easy to maintain, rugged, and able to take intense amounts of incoming fire, some of these machines would be maintained all the way from the fall of Stephan Amaris to the invasion of the clans, the descendants of the SLDF themselves. With the downfall of the SLDF and Terran hegemony, its manufacturing would pass on to other corporations across the Inner Sphere, and though this monster among mechs can be found in almost every corner of the Inner Sphere and periphery, it has become a symbol and a staple of the Free Worlds League, where they were manufactured consistently for centuries. The most frequently found member of the ON1 series during the Star League era and Succession Wars is the ON1K, which is the second production model put into operation, surpassing its comparatively primitive predecessor, the ON1-H. Powered by the 19-ton Velar standard fusion engine, one of the most popular of its era, the Orion operates at the standard movement speed expected of a mech of its weight and size, which is 64.8 kilometers per hour, or 6 movement points in the tabletop game. This is the accepted strategic operational movement of a medium or heavy battlemech formation, meaning the Orion is not deprived in this respect. For tactical use, this amount of pace is not necessarily a disadvantage, but it does mean the Orion will be unable to pursue moderately fast medium formations, or may be isolated if it is paired with faster mechs. The ON1K, though, is underserved by having 10 standard heat sinks on board, rather than any additional weight being put into them, even for the Succession Wars. While its long-range fire is not particularly hot and is effective, in concert with the other range brackets and systems, it can very much be put into bad shape should it not manage its heat appropriately. Orion pilots should avoid the deceptive comfort that some of its systems generally have limited heat, as it can add up and it will add up quickly, especially if it is not watched. Often called the poor man's Atlas after the introduction of its spiritual 100-ton successor, one of the main reasons would be its very much similar inspired weapons package, which only makes sense, given Alexander Kerensky's love of the Orion and the fact that he helped design the Atlas D. Its primary armament is a Kaliyama Class 10 autocannon, or AC-10, giving it good armor breakthrough abilities for its era, and in addition providing it with a medium-range punch. To back this up and to add scatter damage across its target, the Orion K has a Kamiyama Death Bloom missile system with 15 tubes. This helps it to crit seek at long range, and push enemies, when in combination with its AC-10, to make more piloting checks if it can deliver on its higher damage bracket. And best yet, it does give it some indirect fire functionality as well. For when things get in close, the ON-1K has twin IWW medium lasers as well as an IWW Class 4 short-range missile system with 4 tubes. The medium lasers can either help punch holes along with the AC-10, or can work in tandem with the SRM-4 to try to find exposed armor plating or in hopes of landing a lucky shot. In total, the Orion has a devastating array of fire at every range, and packs enough of a punch in all of these ranges to make their enemies think twice about engaging it. On top of this, it can engage targets indirectly if needed to support lighter forces. Best of all, it's good at both breaching enemy armor and finding opened armor, with TACs or headshots as being an added bonus as well after the fact. The most remarkable portion of the Orion, though, is something that many mech warriors may undervalue. The ON-1K comes with a staggering 14.5 tons of armor, making it one of the toughest heavy mechs in the game to chew through. In fact, it's more armored than any other heavy mech in TRO 3025 and has the same raw armor as a BLR-1G Battlemaster, an 85-ton assault mech. This gives the Orion the ability to be an anvil against anything that is the same weight or lighter. In fact, it's more durable than the majority of assault mechs from its time as well, only hindered by potentially volatile ammunition should its outer shell be breached. The ON-1K is not only a classic battlemech, it's an effective one. Kerensky himself showed his preference for it by making it his personal mount when available, and in many ways it's still venerated by his successors to this day as a result. For its time, it can go head-to-head with almost any other mech in its size range and batter them, all while absorbing an immense amount of punishment. It's a mech that proves that being a jack of all trades isn't bad, as its fearsome reputation is well earned given the hard-fought battles it has won. But the K-series of the Orion is not the only one, as time has marched on and new variants have been produced. Though there are more, these are several examples of the ON-1 series being refit to match the challenges of their day. The ON-1 VA would be introduced in 2901, and would be an upgrade of the Orion V, the latter being a variant of the Orion that found itself with little affection due to its lack of armor and poor heat management. The Orion VA, however, instead of being an all-arounder, commits itself to being a close-range hammer. Removing its LRM-15, it uses the saved weight to install a second SRM-4 and additional heat sinks. Able to deliver a vicious barrage of SRMs, a consistent battery of lasers, and to shell their opponents every turn with its autocannon, reliably without a significant heat issue to speak of, this variant is a brick which is flung into its opposition, and outperforms most close-ranged heavy brawlers of its era in every significant field, and still acts as an anvil for drawing fire. During the clan invasion era in 3049, House Marik would see value in retrofitting part of their massive fleet of Orions with newly rediscovered technology, and producing this new model at their factories. Due to the invasion itself as well, this new model, the ON-1-M, would find themselves exported to the front lines of the invasion as well. Unfortunately for the Orion, it would install a 300XL engine in order to save weight. And while this is mostly spent wisely, it is a problem for the Orion as well, given its durability is heavily reduced by having it. It would save more weight and install a vicious new autocannon configuration with the LB-10X autocannon, replacing its AC-10. It would also upgrade its LRM-15 to an LRM-20 and install a NARC missile beacon. Best of all, it would upgrade its heat sinks to double heat sinks, giving it the now massive ability to bring all of its new upgraded weapons and firepower to bear. This may be dangerous, but its reduced durability is noteworthy given that the Orion is meant to be able to take extensive damage, and once it loses a torso or suffers too many engine hits, it will fall just like any other battlemech. Finally, the latest Orion appears to be, at this time, the ON-1-3M, and it uses much of the same outfit as the original ON-1M, and in fact is an upgrade of the 3MX. The 3M mostly retrofits the weapons technology on board, rather than making significant changes outside of this. First, it uses a Gauss rifle rather than an LB-10X, and at the cost of its SRMs, upgrades the LRM launcher to an extended range LRM-15. In addition to this, it upgrades its twin medium lasers to ER medium lasers and installs a Case 2 for its ammunition and Gauss rifle. Finally, it does have a tag as well, though this is a bit out of place with the rest of the systems on board. It's noteworthy that this variant was promised to be sold in numbers to several clients, but pressure from the Republic of the Sphere prevented those sales, causing it to be sold below market value, badly wounding its manufacturer Kali Yama Weapons Industries. The Orion is one of the great champions of the Succession Wars, and has persisted in the years since. Even now, it is likely new variants will come to light, though it has been supplanted in some respects by one of its successor mechs, namely the Perseus, though it remains to be seen if this will be forever. Many walking tanks in addition to this in some way owe their parentage to this Battlemech. The Clan, Orion 2C, Atlas, and Perseus are just to name the most prominent and directly influenced. There is a reason Kerensky chose this mech to be his chariot. He saw it for what it was. For its time, the Orion was a fantastic fighter, and in many respects it still is, even if the Inner Sphere since the Clan invasion has seemingly overcommitted to its XL engine designs. The quality of this machine was certainly known by the Amaris Empire and Stephan Amaris himself, as it tore through his defenders and smashed through the walls leading to the palace grounds in one of the most noteworthy charges in history. The Orion stands tall, not just as Kerensky's mech, but as the mech that ended the Amaris Civil War. Pretty good for a poor man's Atlas. This concludes the bipedal mechs from the original TRO 3025, and I just wanted to thank everyone who has watched and enjoyed these videos so far. We're far from ending the exploration of the equipment, vehicles, factions, and characters from the world of Battletech, and I look forward to seeing where this series goes with the rest of you as we continue to walk down this path. But in addition to that, thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. There is also a YouTube member program that supports this channel as well, and I appreciate the support from the members immensely. I will catch you all in the comments section below for this particular mech, but if you've been with us for the long haul, perhaps you would like to offer up your thoughts on this series as a whole, because this is a very big milestone for us to have reached. Thanks again, and we'll see you all later.